Tonight, we delve into the realm of the supernatural. Picture an ordinary evening where the comforting tranquility is abruptly shattered by the unexpected appearance of an enigmatic box on a young couple's doorstep. Roughly a foot square, this box seems to have materialized out of thin air, its origin and purpose shrouded in mystery. Our story follows the couple as they carry the curious box into their home, their brows wrinkled with confusion. They place it on the kitchen counter, the weight of the unknown heavy in their hands. Along with the box, a handwritten note makes its presence known, its words as chilling as a winter's breeze. "Do not take your eyes off the box. I'm sorry." The vague apology adds an extra layer of intrigue, leaving them bewildered. They exchange a look, a silent conversation passing between them as their fingers trace the words on the note. Yet before they can fully process the cryptic message, the box begins to creak open, as if by its own volition. What emerges from within is not some hidden treasure or forgotten relic, but grotesque, dirt-covered fingers. The sight is so shocking, so entirely out of place in their cozy kitchen, that the wife lets out a horrified scream. It reverberates through the house, a chilling testament to the terror unfolding before their eyes. Instinctively, she dashes out of the room to fetch her phone, her heart pounding in her chest like a frenzied drum. She leaves her husband alone with the box, the note, and the unsettling sight of those dirt-caked fingers. His gaze is locked onto the box, his mind swirling with questions and a creeping sense of dread. The tranquility of their evening has been replaced with an eerie tension that hangs in the air like a heavy fog. And so, we leave our story with the wife, shocked and terrified, escaping the room to fetch her phone, leaving her husband alone with the macabre spectacle. Little do they know, this is just the beginning of a night they will never forget. The husband, left alone, watches as more of the creature emerges from the box. His breath hitched, eyes locked onto the surreal spectacle unfolding before him. Anxiety clawed at his insides as two dirt-covered hands and the top of a greasy, matted head peeked out from the box. The scene was as mesmerizing as it was terrifying, a grotesque tableau that held his gaze captive. Meanwhile, the wife, gripped by panic, frantically scrolled through her phone in another room. Her fingers danced over the screen, searching for any shred of information that could explain the mysterious box. The quiet hum of the device was her only companion in the eerie silence, punctuated by her own anxious breaths. As she delved deeper into the digital abyss, a chill ran down her spine. An image, eerily familiar, flickered onto her screen. A disheveled woman, covered in dirt, stood beside an identical box. The uncanny resemblance to their current predicament was undeniable. A wave of dread washed over her, a dreadful realization that they were not alone in their experience. She raced back to the kitchen, hoping to warn her husband, but the sight that met her was far more chilling than she could have ever imagined. Half of the woman, down to her torso, was now visible in the box, swaying unsettlingly. The very air seemed to throb with tension, the room transformed into a stage for the macabre drama unfolding before them. The husband turned his gaze towards his wife, his face a mask of horror. His eyes mirrored the fear that had taken root in her heart. The grotesque spectacle of the dirt-covered woman, slowly revealing herself from the box, was a sight neither of them would forget. The couple stood frozen, their home now a chilling tableau of horror. The tranquility of their evening had been shattered, replaced with a scene straight out of a nightmare. They were caught in the grip of a terror they could neither comprehend nor escape. Half of a woman down to her torso sways unsettlingly from the box. The couple, trapped in a nightmarish reality, could only watch as the horror continued to unfold. In a desperate attempt to comprehend the inexplicable, the couple decides to experiment. That's where we find ourselves now, in the heart of the uncanny mystery. The couple, their faces bathed in the cold light of terror, are gripped with a realization that chills them to their core. The spectral woman in the box, her haunting gaze fixed on them, seems to progress every time they dare to look away. The box, an enigma in itself, appears to have a rule as unsettling as its contents. The moment one's gaze shifts, the terror within crawls further into reality. The couple's dread intensifies. Their hearts pound against their chests like a drum echoing the rhythm of their fear. It's a race against time, a battle against the unknown. But they are not ones to succumb to fear easily. In a world where the logical and illogical intertwine, they make a decision that could be their salvation or their doom. They decide to call the authorities, hoping that someone out there could provide them with answers, or at the very least, assurance. As they dial the number, the room seems to shrink around them. Every tick of the clock, every creak of the house amplifies their fear. Their hands shake, their breaths come out in short gasps, but they hold on, their eyes never leaving the woman in the box. The husband's voice wavers as he speaks into the phone, trying to explain the unexplainable. The wife, her eyes wide with terror, clutches the note that started it all, a chilling reminder of their predicament. The wait for help becomes a test of their endurance, their sanity. The eerie silence is broken only by the crackling static from the phone and their own ragged breaths. Then, a knock at the door. Startled, their attention diverts momentarily, the door's refusal to open adding to their rising panic. As they turn back to the kitchen, they are greeted with a sight that makes their blood run cold. The woman has progressed further. Now her ankles are visible, and a slow, eerie laughter fills the air. A knock at the door diverts their attention, and they turn back to find the woman has progressed further. Attempting to escape, they find themselves inexplicably trapped. The couple, now consumed with terror, made a desperate attempt to flee. They dashed towards the front door, their hearts pounding against their rib cages like a relentless drum. But as they reached for the doorknob, a cold dread washed over them. It wouldn't turn. The door, their only apparent avenue of escape, was mysteriously locked from the inside. A chilling laughter echoed around them, bouncing off the walls, filling the air with a sense of malevolence. It was a sound that seemed to seep into their very bones, freezing them in place. The laughter grew louder, more sinister, a cacophony that was almost tangible in its intensity. It was the woman's laughter, the woman from the box. They turned around slowly, their hearts sinking. The kitchen was now empty. The box, previously a container for the unspeakable horror, now lay discarded on the floor, its purpose served. Their eyes darted around the room, a sense of impending doom settling in. And then they saw her, standing where the box once was, her dirt-covered form fully visible now. The room was her domain now. The woman who had emerged from the box was now standing in their living room, her greasy, matted hair hanging over her face, obscuring her features. But it was her eyes that held their attention. Her eyes, which seemed to glow in the dim light, were fixed on them, unblinking and haunting. She held a knife in her hand, its blade glinting ominously. A jagged, toothy smile spread across her face, a macabre display of joy. The couple was trapped, their living room transformed into a nightmarish landscape. The box, the woman, the laughter, it was all too surreal, too horrifying. But there was no denying the reality of their situation. The ordinary had turned extraordinary, the mundane had become the supernatural. The couple, trapped in their own home by a force beyond their understanding, braced themselves for what was to come. Their living room is now a domain for the haunting woman. Their home has transformed into a nightmarish landscape. The once familiar, comforting walls of their home now echoed with an eerie laughter that sent chills down their spines. The woman, once confined to the box, was now fully emerged, standing in their living room. Her greasy, matted hair fell over her face, partially obscuring a jagged, toothy smile that sent waves of terror coursing through the couple. In her hand, she clutched a knife, its gleaming blade reflecting the dim light of the room. The sight was chilling, a menacing figure standing in stark contrast to the homely surroundings. The couple, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as she swayed unsettlingly, her gaze never leaving them. The realization of the supernatural horror they were facing began to sink in. They were not dealing with a mere intruder, but something far more sinister. This was not a woman, not a human being. They were facing an otherworldly horror that defied logic, something that had crawled out of a box and into their home, into their lives. She took a step towards them, the wooden floor creaking under her weight. The sound was deafening in the silence, a chilling reminder of the nightmare unfolding around them. The couple backed away, their minds racing as they tried to comprehend the surreal situation. The supernatural entity, for lack of a better term, seemed to relish their fear, her laughter growing louder, echoing off the walls. The once comforting home now felt like a trap, a prison from which there seemed to be no escape. They were ensnared in a terrifying encounter with the supernatural, a nightmarish scenario that transcended the realm of reason. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. They were in this together, and they would face this horror together. They steeled themselves, their fear giving way to a determined resolve. The inexplicable box had unleashed a malevolent force, a supernatural entity that had turned their lives upside down. But they were not about to let this entity, this woman, have the last laugh. What would you do if you found such a box?